Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Gabe with Indigo Software, genuine Microsoft software for less. In today's video, we're going to be going through the entire CompTIA A+ 220-1101, otherwise known as Core 1 practice exam. We're going to answer all 90 questions and then provide the explanation afterwards. We're not going to break up the video length at all, so the total video length should be pretty long, but if you're preparing for your exam, we hope that this can help you to pass. Before we get started with this video, if you're interested in purchasing Microsoft Office, Windows 10, Windows 11, remote desktop licenses, or a wide variety of other Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll put links down below. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, guys, we are inside of the practice test. Let's go ahead and start here on question 1. Documents sent to a printer are printing with abnormally wide margins. You think the paper size is incorrectly selected. Where do you go to make this change? Now, I believe here the correct answer is B. If you've ever, for example, made printing changes on a Mac laptop, if you're trying to print something, or from a Windows PC, these types of settings are going to be found in the printing preferences. Okay, and I believe the answer here is printing preferences. Let's find out. All right, and as we can see, printing preferences in the printer settings on our computer or in the print dialog box allows you to adjust various settings, including paper size, orientation, and margins. So this is where we would go to make changes to fix the abnormally wide margins. All right, let's go to question 2. As an IT consultant, you have been hired by a small business owner to provide a solution for their employees to securely use their laptops in the office environment. The business owner wants employees to be able to charge their devices, access LAN resources, and use a variety of removable hardware. Which of the following would best meet the owner's needs? Now, there's a reason this word here is capitalized, because CompTIA is really looking for you to implement the best solution, and therefore we do have multiple solutions that we could use here. For example, the port replicator is similar, but a docking station, I believe, is the right answer that they're looking for, because this would be just the best possible solution in this scenario. Let's see if I'm right. So a docking station is a device that allows laptops to connect to multiple peripherals, such as monitors, keyboards, mice, and other devices. It provides a convenient way for employees to charge their devices, access LAN resources, and use removable hardware, making it the best choice here. All right, and then we've got quick explanations for the rest of the incorrect answers here, but we're not going to go through all of those here. As an IT technician, you've been tasked with setting up a server for a client who wants to ensure that their server does not lose power if their power supply fails. The client runs a critical application that cannot afford any downtime due to power outages. Which of the following best describes the type of power supply needed in this situation? We're going to see more of these types of answers, but this is a self-explanatory answer. We're looking for redundancy, and so we just want a redundant power supply. Let's check our answer. A redundant power supply is the best option for this situation, as it provides a backup power source in case the primary power supply fails. This ensures that the server remains operational and the critical application does not experience any downtime due to power outages. All right, and then we can have a quick look at the incorrect answers here. And again, this one's pretty self-explanatory. Which of the following IP addresses can be routed across the internet? I believe the correct answer for this question, number 4, is D. Let's go ahead and check. All right, so 127.0.0.1 is a loopback address that is reversed for internal testing and communication within the local machine. So this is not going to be routed across the internet as a public address. 192.168.1.2 is a private IP address from the reserved range for the internal networks defined by RFC 1918. This is also not routable across the internet. Okay, the next one here is also a private IP address, and this is from the reserved range defined by RFC 1918 for internal networks. So again, it can't be routed across the internet. And that leaves us with this one. 129.52.50.15 is a public IP address that can be routed across the internet. Public IP addresses are globally unique and can be used for communication between devices on different networks over the internet. You're setting up a website for your business that involves sensitive information like user credentials and payment details. You want to ensure that traffic to and from your website is secure and encrypted. What is the name of a network protocol that secures web traffic via SSL TLS encryption? If you don't remember this from learning material, you may already be familiar with it. And the correct answer is D, HTTPS. Okay, let's check the answer. This stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, and this is a known network protocol that encrypts and secures web traffic. It also uses SSL TLS encryption to protect sensitive information such as user credentials and payment details. If we take a look at some of the other options here, HTTP, so without the S, is basically the same thing as HTTPS, but without the security feature. FTPS is a protocol used for secure file transfer, but is not specifically designed for web traffic. And SNMP is a protocol used for network management and monitoring, but again, not securing web traffic. All right, question 6. You are replacing a broken screen on a new company laptop, but you do not have repair information from the vendor. Which of the following is the best way to proceed? The correct answer here is going to be D, and we'll get into the explanation here in a second. Okay, so the reason that this is the best answer in this case is because we need a solution, so we have to have this display working, but we can't really just sit around and wait to find out from vendors, what's going to happen in terms of waiting for the vendor to provide more information. But by documenting and labeling the screw and cable locations, we know where everything belongs, and it will be reinstalled correctly. And then as we can see that we have additionally replacing the screen with a non-OEM screen may not be compatible and could lead to further issues, and updating the firmware is not directly related to the repair. A technician was called in to look at a user's PC. The users reported that the PC was very sluggish. The hard disk drive light on the PC was constantly on without blinking. The PC itself was slow, receiving input, and it took a very long time to load the OS. The technician also noticed updates had failed. Which of the following is the most likely cause of these issues? Okay, so we can look at all of our options here. One thing that immediately stands out to me is that the update is failing. And so why would an update fail on a computer in addition to having all of these other problems? And we also have the hard disk drive light on. Usually that's going to indicate something to do with low storage space, right? Because if we can't download an update, then we can't install one. And so we're going to have an issue. Let's see if that's correct. Yep. So again, the symptoms described, including the constant drive activity, slow input response, and failed updates, are indicative of a lack of free space on the drive. When the drive is full, the system struggles to operate efficiently, leading to these issues, which is why this is the most likely cause of the problem reported by the user. Here's a quick look at the other options. All right, let's move on to question 8. You're configuring 2 email servers on your company's network. Which network protocol did the servers use to transfer mail to each other? And I believe, again, the correct answer for this is going to be D. Let's check that. And we got that correct. All right, let's look at the overall explanation here. So SMTP, or Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, is used to transfer email between servers. POP3 and IMAP4 are used to download email, and SMMP, or Simple Network Management Protocol, is not for transferring email between servers. Let's move on to the next question. Your client asks you to add a second 4K display to a PC. The PC currently connects to the first 4K display with DisplayPort, and the new 4K display has DisplayPort in, DisplayPort out, and HDMI ports. The PC has a single DisplayPort and 2 HDMI ports. The cable run between the PC and the existing display is 50 feet, and the new display will be located directly beside the existing display. The second display is already paid for, but you need to select the connection type. The budget for the connection is £40, or the rough equivalent of $50 US. Which of the following is the best recommendation for making this work? Now, this one could be a little bit tricky, but let's find out what we already have with the current display. Okay, so basically, since we know that the new display actually has a DisplayPort in and a DisplayPort out, we can daisy chain the second display to the first display with DisplayPort cables, right? And so basically we can take our existing cable, plug it into the second display, and then daisy chain directly from this display to our first 4K display with another DisplayPort cable. Let's check the answer. Okay, and then here we have the explanation. Daisy chaining the second 4K display to the first display with DisplayPort or MDP cables is the best recommendation in this scenario. This method allows you to connect the new display to the existing one, utilizing the DP out port on the new display and the single display port on the PC. It is a cost-effective and practical solution within the budget constraints. Cable failure on an existing 100 base T or fast Ethernet network segment. Plans are to upgrade this segment to a gigabit Ethernet in the next 12 months, keeping both current and future needs in mind. Which of the following is the best solution? All right, so in this case, we basically want to avoid doing the work twice, and we also want to avoid adding unnecessary expense. So let's think about what that could be. And one thing that would be helpful to know with this is what the minimum speeds are for these cables. So for example, I know that gigabit Ethernet is too fast for a Cat5 cable. So let's go ahead and read through our current option. Replace the current cable with a Cat5 cable now and run a Cat5e alongside it for future use. So knowing that these are backwards compatible, this doesn't seem like it would make much sense to me. And a Cat5e isn't the most future-proof cable that we can add, so I'm going to rule that one out as well. I believe this is a coaxial cable. So to me, the best answer is going to be to replace the current cable with a Cat6 cable. Yep, again, so we can ensure that this supports the gigabit Ethernet speeds, and we're avoiding having to do work twice or run multiple cables. Next question is, which of the following answers refers to a proprietary line of low power consumption, small form factor motherboard types for industrial and embedded PC applications? This is just a memory one. You got to remember what these abbreviations mean and which one is used in what application. The correct answer is B, ITX. You may also hear this called mini ITX, and these are known for their small form factor, low power consumption, and suitability for industrial and embedded PC applications. Okay, next question. A common connector type providing power to graphics cards, CPUs, older types of storage media, or cooling fans on the PC motherboard is generally referred to. Now, you guys have probably used these before if you've ever built your own PC. They have the sort of separating tabs that kind of join together to go into the connector, and these are known as a Molex connector. And the key here is that these are specifically designed for hardware such as graphics cards, CPUs, PSUs, older storage media, etc. And if you want to know the other connectors as well, we have quick explanations for those. Which of the following dedicated expansion slots/ports on the PC motherboard enable connecting an M.2 device? So for example, on my PC tower, I have NVMe SSDs, and those are M.2 devices. And so when we're looking for an M.2 slot on our machine, we're either going to see a B key slot, an M key slot, or a B and M key slot, which would be compatible with either. B key slot is a dedicated expansion slot enabling M.2 connections. And same thing with the M key slot. This one has the M connector, so slightly different. And then again, this one here is compatible with both. PCIe slots are used for connecting graphics cards, networks cards, and sound cards. USB slots are USB slots. And then SATA ports are for SATA devices such as hard drives or optical drives. A user entered a help desk ticket stating that the latest calendar updates have not appeared on the user's corporate mobile device for several days. Even though updates do appear on the user's laptop, which of the following actions will most likely enable calendar alerts? Now this one is a little bit tricky because it's a little hard to tell exactly what's going on. I believe the answer is B. Let's go ahead and check. All right, so let's run through all of these in a little bit more detail. So we know that checking the ringer volume on the device is high enough to be audible is related to receiving audible notifications, but not specifically related to calendar updates. And then we were correct on our answer. Ensuring the corporate password is saved correctly in the calendar application is crucial for the synchronization of calendar updates on the corporate mobile device. If it's not saved correctly, the device may not be able to access the calendar server to receive the latest updates. Installing a third-party calendar application and synchronizing it with the corporate calendar may introduce additional complexities and may not address the root cause here. And finally, remotely wiping the mobile device and reinstalling all applications is quite the task and should only be considered as a last resort. A technical lead wants to migrate all common business applications, including email and file shares, to the cloud. Which of the following cloud concepts should be used? All right, and the correct answer here is C. And you just have to memorize what these stand for. The AA is as a, so in this case, software as a service is our correct answer. So again, just kind of remembering monitoring as a service and kind of what this does. So this is a cloud service that provides monitoring capabilities for various aspects of IT. Platform as a service would be providing developers with a platform that they can build, deploy, or manage applications. And then software as a service is a cloud service that delivers software applications over the internet. And then we have infrastructure as a service, and this is a cloud service that provides virtualized computing resources over the internet. A new version of Windows was released, and a piece of software vital to the engineering department will not run on the new version. Which of the following is, again, the best option to enable this department to continue using the software? So the most significant feature of an update in a work environment is always security, or it always should be considered security by an IT professional. And so By that logic, we want to always upgrade to the latest software or operating system. And so I believe the best answer in this case would be to upgrade all workstations, so even the ones that are no longer going to be able to run the software, and then just open a virtual environment for the legacy software to run on the new update. Let's see if that's correct. So again, for consistency and security, we don't want to upgrade all of the workstations except the engineering department. Purchasing new workstations is, first of all, not going to solve our issue and also going to provide a large expense. If we don't upgrade any of the workstations, we're not going to be able to benefit from any of the new update features. A technician has built a custom workstation for an end user. The end user reports that the workstation ran for a few minutes and then crashed. When the user subsequently boots the workstation, it crashes much more quickly. Which of the following did the technician forget to do when building the workstation? So configure integrated GPU, that's irrelevant. That doesn't really have to do with this. Overclocking the GPU is not a normal part of the process that we should be concerned with. And then applying thermal paste, we could assume this answer here, but I think connecting the case fans is more likely because we need airflow as a part of our cooling as well. Most cooling systems will already have thermal paste applied. Let's check our answer. All right, so it's telling us that connecting the case fans is crucial for maintaining proper airflow and cooling inside the workstation. If the case fans are not connected, the components and especially the CPU can quickly overheat, leading to crashes and instability. A technician sets up a new printer on the network, allowing it to obtain an IP address. The technician records the IP address and sets up users to print using the information. The following Monday, after powering on the printer, users report they can no longer print. After verifying users can access other network shares, the technician prints a configuration page and sees if the IP address has changed. Which of the following is the best method for the technician to ensure that this will not happen again? I believe the correct answer is create an IP reservation for the printer on the DHCP server. Let's check. All right, so that answer is correct. And let's go ahead and just read the overall explanation. The issue described in the question occurs because the printer's IP address was dynamically assigned by the DHCP server, which might change over time. And this means that the printer may have been assigned to a different IP address when it was powered on again on Monday, causing the jobs to fail. To prevent this issue from happening, the technician needs to ensure that the printer always has a consistent IP address. And the best method is to create an IP reservation for the printer on the DHCP server. A customer has the LCD display in a laptop replaced. And after the repair, the customer notices the laptop is showing a weaker Wi-Fi signal than before the display was replaced. Which of the following best explains the lower Wi-Fi signal? All right, and the only one that's really making sense to me here is the new LCD panel is potentially causing some interference. That answer is correct, and we can see that the new LCD panel could be causing interference with the Wi-Fi signal due to electromagnetic interference. This interference can disrupt the wireless signal and result in a weaker Wi-Fi connection. And then we can see what would happen if some of these other scenarios were applied. Again, we're just trying to see what's more likely. If the antennas were damaged, we would definitely see a weaker result, but in this case, the issue is more likely to be related to interference caused by the new LCD panel. A user brings a Windows laptop into the office and connects it to a wireless network. Upon connecting to the network, the user is prompted to select whether the network is home, work, or public network. The user selects the work profile and is able to access the internet but cannot access offline network resources. Which of the following is the most likely cause of the problem? I think this one is B. The user is connected to the wrong wireless network. And I'm gathering that because, again, they gave us three options here, home, work, or public. So let's go ahead and see what the correct answer is. Okay, and selecting the work profile indicates that the user is connected to the correct network type, but the inability to access office network resources suggests that they might be connected to a different wireless network than the one used for office resources. Which of the following is the type of address a DHCP server assigns on a network? And we can actually take this from the earlier question about the printer. We're looking for a dynamic address. And again, this is reiterating that the address can change over time, and this allows efficient allocation of IP addresses, and it simplifies the network management. Static IP addresses are manually configured and do not change unless otherwise modified by an admin. Automatic private IP addressing is a feature in Windows operating systems that automatically assigns a unique IP address in the absence of a DHCP server. And then MAC addresses are unique identifiers assigned to network interfaces at the hardware level. And so this is what devices get assigned. For which type of PC component are 80 millimeter and 120 millimeter common sizes. Now, this wouldn't really make sense for heat sinks, memory modules, or CPUs. We're talking about a fairly large size here. So my guess is going to go with case fans. Case fans commonly come in 80 millimeter and 120 millimeter sizes to provide adequate cooling for the internal components of a PC. These sizes are standard for case fans to ensure proper airflow and temperature regulation within the computer case. An exclamation point next to a device in the device manager indicates which of the following. Basically, it looks like a yellow warning sign, and I believe if you see this, it means that a driver is not properly installed for the device. This can lead to the device not functioning correctly or at all, requiring the user to install the appropriate driver to resolve the issue. While a disabled device in the device manager may also display an exclamation point, the specific indication for this symbol is typically that the driver is not properly installed. And if the driver is not digitally signed, again, we have kind of the same explanation for the other answers. Beep codes are generated by which of the following? Now, I actually remember learning this in my course material for CompTIA A+, and we're looking for post here. Let's go ahead and check the answer. So the post is a power on self-test. This is a diagnostic process that a computer's basic input/output system performs to ensure that the hardware is functioning correctly. And this is a part of the post process and indicate errors or issues you might have during startup. CMOS is responsible for storing BIOS settings and maintaining the system clock. Real-time clock is responsible for keeping track of time in a computer system. And then, of course, Windows is an operating system and is not responsible for generating beep codes. You just turned off a printer to maintain it. Which of the following should you be careful of when removing the fuser? Now, this is generally the case with a lot of similar mechanical machines like this. We want to be careful of the fuser being hot. All right, and it's just reiterating to us here that the fuser in a printer is responsible for melting and bonding toner to the paper, which means that it's going to operate at a very high temperature. We want to make sure that we handle this properly and that it's cooled down before we attempt to remove it. Which of the following connectors is used for musical equipment? This one is MIDI. A lot of electric musical instruments, such as keyboards, will have MIDI connectors, and you could use this with the software applications such as Ableton to record the musical data. And so with this, I just try to remember that we're recording data rather than audio. And then VGA is video graphics array. DVI is also not the right choice. These are commonly used for connecting digital displays such as monitors or projectors. We know DisplayPort connectors are typically used for high definition displays, monitors, or projectors. So let's move on to the next question. If you're working on an important project on your laptop and you suddenly notice that the video on your laptop is not working, what should you do to troubleshoot it? Now, this is going to be more specific to Windows laptops, but we have a video function key, and that would generally just be the first step to check to see if that is our issue. All right, toggling the video function key can help troubleshoot video display issues on laptops as it may have been accidentally disabled. And then removing and reattaching the display unit is a task that would take many hours and expert skill to do that. Replacing the inverter is a specific hardware component relating to backlighting and LCD displays, and this is not directly related to troubleshooting video display issues. And then powering the system back on and off can sometimes resolve temporary issues or hardware glitches, but the basic troubleshooting step that can be taken here is, again, to toggle the video function key. Okay, and then for some reason, this is a repeat of one of the first questions. So if you guys want to go ahead and guess, or if you remember, again, that was the printing preferences. You are a computer technician tasked with setting up a new desktop computer for a multinational company that frequently participates in international conferences and trade shows. The computer specifications require that the maximum amount of RAM, typical CPU, GPU, and storage for a business workstation. As the technician, you need to choose a power supply for this computer. Which system parameter would be the most important for you to consider when selecting the power supply? Now, this one is a little bit confusing to me. The key things that I'm taking away are multinational company that frequently participates in international conferences. So we need something that can work in a lot of different applications. And we want the maximum amount of RAM, typical CPU, GPU, and storage for a business workstation. So to me, that sounds like we need to really consider input voltage. So the input voltage is a crucial factor to consider when selecting a power supply, as it determines the compatibility and stability of the power supply with the electrical system of the multinational company, especially during international conferences and trade shows. The output voltage itself is specifically important for ensuring that you get enough power to your hardware in your computer, but for this specific question, Input voltage is making more sense here. And then static connectors is essential for drives and other peripherals. Efficiency rating would not really be applicable here. And then again, the first answer, the voltage is more a critical factor to consider. A technician has been assigned to upgrade the RAM in a desktop computer. Which type of RAM is the technician most likely to use to install the additional RAM? So if we think desktop computer, we can think DDR3, DDR4, DDR5. These are the RAM sticks that we would want in like a mid-tower PC, for example. Let's check our answer. So again, double data rate, that's DDR. This is again the most common choice for upgrading RAM in desktop computers due to its compatibility and performance benefits. VRAM is what we'd see inside of our graphics cards. This is not typically used for general system memory. ECC RAM is used for servers and workstations to detect and fix memory errors. And then small outline dual inline memory module. We're going to see this in smaller form computers like laptops. You need to take inventory quickly and accurately to ensure that your stock levels are up to date. Which of the following peripherals would you most likely use? This one is a little bit more self-explanatory. We're going to use a barcode scanner. Barcode scanners can quickly and accurately scan the barcodes on each product, which then connects to a software system that updates the inventory levels in real time. This allows for accurate and efficient inventory management, including reducing time and effort required for manual inventory counting. All right, guys, next question is, the technician powers on a PC and its monitor, and it sees the following error message. No input signal detected. The display lights on the computer are on. Which of the following is a possible solution? So the most obvious clue that I'm going to be looking at from this question here is no input signal detected. And so oftentimes if we see that, the first thing we might try to do is changing the connector setting on the monitor itself. Let's see if this is the correct answer. Let me see if actually any of these look better. Okay, I think it's this one. Let's go ahead and check. Yep, so again, that can help us ensure that the correct input source is selected from the menu. Checking the plug on the monitor is important, of course, but it wouldn't give us any feedback at all if it was unplugged. BIOS settings would not give us that error. It also states here that the technician should ensure that the cable connecting the monitor to the computer is securely plugged in on both ends. If the cable is loose, they should reconnect it and properly check to see if the error message disappears. Next question, a user is no longer able to browse the internet after returning from a vacation. The user is able to log in and navigate to the local internet, but not any outside sites. A technician pings a well-known website by the name, but gets no reply. The technician then pings its IP address and gets a reply. Which of the following commands will most likely resolve the issue? All right, and here we have some IP config commands that we can execute inside of Windows command prompt. And I believe in this case, we would want to do flush DNS first. It indicates a DNS resolution problem if they can access local sites but not external ones. And so this may help resolve the issue by clearing out any outdated or incorrect DNS information that may be causing the problem. A technician is tasked with setting up a new workstation for a client. The client requires that the workstation has a mirrored storage, allowing two 4 terabyte drives that can support one failure without data loss. Which of the following best meets these requirements? This one's going to come down to memorization in terms of which RAID configuration is accomplishing what. When I first learned the course material, our professor told us that RAID 0 is 0 redundancy. That's been helpful for me to remember it. So RAID 0 meaning 0 redundancy. That's basically going to take the data and improve the performance, but without adding any redundancy. And the next one is RAID 1, which is mirroring the data. And so that's going to give us redundancy in case of drive failure. So RAID 1 here would be the correct answer. And on the actual test, I did see multiple RAID configuration questions, and so knowing this would be very helpful. A technician is troubleshooting a user's computer that is not receiving a network connection. Upon inspection, the technician finds that the connection seems to be down and needs to locate the user's port on the patch panel. However, the port and patch panel are not labeled. Which of the following network tools would be best to help the technician identify the correct port? All right, and the correct answer here, if I remember correctly, is the toner probe. Yep, so the multimeter is used to measure voltage, current, and resistance in electrical circuits. Toner probe is used for identifying the correct port on a patch panel. So it's made pretty much for exactly this. Which of the DNS database records listed below returns a 128-bit IP address? I believe this is AAAA, otherwise known as IPv6. Let's see if I'm correct about that. Again, this will come down to memorizing here. So these records are also known as IPv6, and we just need to know that it returns a 128-bit IP address. CNAME records don't return IP addresses, neither do MX records, and just a single A is a 32-bit. So, we combine that, A times 4, or 32 times 4 is 128. That's one way that we can remember these records. Which of the following memory types is used in laptops? I think we had a similar question to this earlier, and we want the small form factor, and this one starts with S, is how I remember it. So SODIMM is the small form factor for memory in laptops. Now we also have an explanation for the other form factors. Let's go ahead to the next question. Which device retains data over the long term? So the easiest way to think about this question for me is long-term storage means I can turn my computer off and this thing is still holding on to my information. My information is intact. And so we're thinking about things like a hard drive or a USB drive or an SSD, which is a solid state drive. And if we look at GPUs and CPUs and RAM, those are short-term memory storage, which means when you turn off the computer, nothing is actually saved, the data is purged. You are a computer technician tasked with setting up a new desktop computer for a multinational company. Oh, okay, it looks like we already had this one as well. I'm not sure why it's giving us repeat questions. Hopefully there's not any more. Remembering this one from earlier, it is input voltage. Which of the following should a technician do next after reporting an incident? Now we've learned this in CompTIA's steps. They want us to follow a very specific set of steps when we're helping a customer, and that is so that we can refer to anything that's happened in a case and have all of the correct documented information about it. And so basically we want to write everything down, and the answer is going to be document the incident. Okay, let's move on to the next one. You are a technical support specialist for a large corporation, and you've been asked to set up a PC in a conference room for video presentations during training sessions. The PC will need to be connected to a large screen TV for displaying the video content. As a technician support specialist, which of the following video connectors would be the most appropriate choice for this environment? So we have a PC, and we want to connect this to a large screen TV. We're going to be looking for something that can carry audio and video, and the only option out of that here for a PC would be HDMI. A customer claims that despite using a gigabit LAN card, their computer can never transmit data at a rate of more than 100 megabits per second. The technician discovers that the network cable needs to be changed while troubleshooting. What type of cable category is restricting the transmission speed? All right, so we should be getting gigabit speeds, and we're only getting 100 megabits per second. So basically, I just want the lowest number on the CAT because that's going to signify the lowest transfer speeds. And so Cat5e would be a little bit faster. Cat5e would be a little bit slower here, and I believe the maximum transfer speed is 100 megabits per second. Okay, so that was correct, and we can see that Cat5 cables are capable of supporting network speeds up to 100 megabits per second. Even though the customer has a gigabit LAN card, the Cat5 cable would not be able to support the higher transfer speeds of 1 gigabit. Cat5e, Cat6, and Cat6a are all capable of supporting higher network speeds than Cat5. And then here we can try to remember what these speeds are at different cables. On a laptop, the screen is constantly flickering. Which of the following is most likely to be the root of the issue? Okay, so this one, I believe, has to do with, it wants us to choose 2. So I can start by ruling out it's not the power supply unit, it's not the cable, and it's not likely to be interference either. And a failing display, we could go with that answer, but I do think it's probably a failing inverter and a failing backlight, as these two can go together. Let's check that. Okay, that's correct. All right, and then here's the explanation. A failing backlight can cause flickering on a laptop display because the backlight provides the light that illuminates the display. If the backlight is failing or malfunctioning, it can cause the display to flicker or go dark. And similarly, a failing inverter can also cause the display to flicker because the inverter converts the direct current power from the laptop's battery or power supply into the alternating current power that is needed to power the backlight. So if the inverter is failing, it may not be providing a stable power supply to the backlight, which can cause the display to flicker. All right, true or false? When a computer hibernates, the computer shuts down after saving everything in memory on your hard disk. Okay, I believe this is true. Let's make sure. Yes, this is true. When a computer hibernates, the operating system saves the contents of the system's memory or RAM to the hard disk, and then it shuts down the computer. and when the computer is turned back on, it reads the saved information and restores the system to its previous state. And so this would allow us to resume working where we left off. A technician is replacing a laptop's hard drive with an SSD. Which of the following should the technician do first? So if we're doing anything involving data, especially critical data, our first step is always going to be to create a backup. And that one is pretty self-explanatory. It's crucial to back this up before doing any sort of modifications to the hard disk drive. A network engineer is looking for a provider that will allow him to move his organization's servers, routers, firewalls, and switches to the cloud. This provider would essentially act as his organization's virtual data center. What type of cloud provider does this network engineer need to find? So the key to this question will be remembering what those words stand for. We know the last three are as a service. And I believe in this case, it sounds like we're going to need infrastructure as a service. And that is correct. Infrastructure as a service providers offer virtualized computing resources such as servers, storage, networking, and security services that can be used to replace or augment traditional on-premises data center infrastructure. You're working from home and you have an important video conference call scheduled for later in the day. You check your video conferencing software and select your webcam, but the software is unable to open it. You remember that the webcam was working fine the previous day. Which of the following should be done first to address the issue? Okay, reseating or replacing the webcam doesn't really make sense. And checking the driver probably wouldn't cause an issue if it was working yesterday. Close the other video software and keep retrying. I believe that is going to be our best bet here. All right, the answer is correct. And the explanation is this is a good first step, as having other video software open could be interfering with the webcam's functionality. Close any other video software that may be running and try using the webcam. Now this one is just going to come down to memory. Which CPU socket should the replacement motherboard have for an i7 11700K? And for that processor, we're going to need the LGA 1200. All right, so here we go. The 1200 is used for 10th and 11th gen Intel Core processors. The 1150 socket type is used for older processors such as the 4th generation. 1366 is used for older Intel processors as well, such as the Intel Core i7 through 9. And the 1700, this is the socket that is not currently in use, is expected to be used by Intel's upcoming 12th generation Alder Lake processors. A user is looking to build a computer for casual gaming and wants to know if they need to purchase a built-in or separate graphics card. They're considering a CPU with an Intel UHD graphics 630 built-in. Which built-in functionality allows the Intel UHD graphics 630 to take over tasks normally executed by a dedicated graphics controller? This one is basically exactly what it sounds, and that is integrated GPU. Let's check the answer. An integrated GPU, or graphics processing unit, is a unit that is built into the CPU itself rather than being a separate dedicated card. And so in this case, the Intel UHD graphics 630 is an integrated GPU that is built into the CPU. The CEO has requested that his IT department find a new accounting software. I probably don't even need to read the rest of the problem, but I will. But it's giving us the keyword software right here. Let's go ahead and see what else it says. He would prefer that the software doesn't need to be installed locally on his machine, since he often switches between multiple different devices. He would like the program to simply be accessible via a web browser on any device while he has an internet connection. What type of software should this IT department be looking for? And again, software as a service. This one was pretty self-explanatory. One feature of virtualization is the ability to quickly add and remove resources to servers depending on your needs at the time. What is a term used to describe this? Now, I believe the correct term that CompTIA wants us to choose here is rapid elasticity. And we can remember this by, if we can quickly add or remove things, we can think about that being elastic. And that is correct indeed. So for the explanation, elasticity in virtualization refers to the ability to dynamically adjust the computing resources such as CPU, memory, storage, and network bandwidth allocated to virtual machines or containers based on the workload demands. So this means that we can easily scale up or down the resources depending on the current demand and without having to do any physical hardware changes. A technician troubleshoots a projector that occasionally powers off. The technician recreates the issue and notices the projector will not power back on until approximately 10 minutes have passed. After 10 minutes of being powered on, the projector shuts off again. Which of the following should the technician perform next to replace the issue? Now, this sounds like it could be some kind of overheating issue, and I believe the correct answer is D, clean the filter. All right, so that one is correct as well. Again, the symptoms suggest that the projector may be overheating and automatically shutting off as a safety measure to prevent damage. The filter in a projector is designed to prevent dust and debris from entering the device and blocking the airflow that cools the internal components. And over time, this filter can become clogged with dirt and dust, which can impede the airflow and cause the device to overheat. You are a technician who has just replaced a faulty processor in a customer's computer. Before you can complete the repair, you need to add a cooling mechanism to the new processor to prevent overheating. What should you use to attach the cooling system to the processor? And the correct answer here is thermal paste. We use this thing called thermal paste on the cooler, and it goes directly on top of the CPU on the motherboard. And this improves the heat transfer between the processor and the cooling system. So it's going to fill any of those microscopic gaps or imperfections. Kate, an accountant, reports that after turning on her new laptop, she receives a message stating that her IP address is already in use in the system. She tried going back to her desktop, which she now only uses for email, but she received the same message. The technician checks the account and sees a comment that Anne requires a special network setup to connect to the banking software. Which of the following should the technician do to resolve the issue? I believe the answer for this one is B. Let's check. Yes. All right. So if the error message, the IP is already in use on the system, indicates that there's an IP address conflict on the network. And this means that another device on the network is using the same IP address as Kate's laptop and desktop. Since Kate's old desktop is used for email, it's likely that it's still configured with a static IP address, which is causing the conflict. The technician should remove the static IP configuration from the desktop by setting it to obtain an IP address automatically via DHCP. And for the new laptop, the technician should configure the network adapter to use DHCP, which will allow it to obtain a unique IP address automatically from the network. This will prevent conflicts with other devices on the network and resolve the issue. Which DVI does not provide support for analog signal transmission? And the way that I remembered this one, I believe it's B, and the D here is going to stand for digital. And so if it's digital, it's not analog. And that is correct. So again, supports only digital video transmission, meaning that it doesn't support analog signals. Examples of cabling types used for mass storage devices include, all right, we know that eSATA and SATA and SCSI or SCSI are all used for mass storage devices. Okay, and I actually missed one there, IDE/PATA. This is an older type of cabling used to connect hard drives and optical drives. So actually all 4 answers should have been selected. You're in the market for a new smartphone comparing different models. Which type of processor is generally preferred for mobile devices? We can probably rule out the processor type that is generally preferred for desktop computers, and that would be x64, so 64-bit operating system, and this would be x32 as well. And this would also be x86, which are legacy systems, and then LGA we've determined is a motherboard socket type. And so the correct answer left is going to be ARM. Let's go ahead and make sure that that's right. All right, and this is correct, and this is because mobile devices have smaller batteries and need to last for a longer time between charges. ARM processors are also smaller in size, and they're designed to be power efficient. All right, question 58. Which of the answers listed below refers to the characteristic features of the signal that can be carried through VGA cable? So VGA, if we remember, is not audio, but just video. So we can get a video signal, and this is going to be coming from analog. And as we can see, the answer is correct. Video graphics array cable is primarily used to transmit video signals from a computer to a monitor. While it is possible to transmit audio signals through VGA cable using a separate adapter or cable, audio is not a characteristic feature of the VGA cable itself. Which of the following should not be connected to a UPS? All right, and then monitors, speakers, and PCs, I believe, are not the correct answers, and I think it's laser printers. Yes, so UPS devices are designed to provide backup power to connected devices during a power outage or brownout, helping to prevent data loss and other issues caused by sudden power loss. However, laser printers can consume a lot of power during operation and can overload a UPS, causing it to shut down or fail. And the other options can typically safely be connected to a UPS. A customer wants to purchase a new home desktop computer. The machine will mainly be used for internet browsing and streaming video, except on weekends when the customer will use it to play games with friends. Which of the following should the technician focus on to meet these requirements? All right, so the case fans and the RAID are both going to be irrelevant here. We would mostly be looking for a high capacity drive, and we would also want a 4-core processor. All right, let's check to see if that's right. And yes, this one's correct as well. A 4-core processor would be helpful for gaming as it can handle more demanding tasks. And a high capacity hard drive is necessary for storing games, videos, and other media files. You are a technician at a company and an employee has recently been terminated. However, the employee had set a boot password and a BIOS password on their computer, on their company issued computer, and you need to gain access to it. All right, and just reading along with this, it sounds like we're going to be needing to access the jumper, and this is a motherboard component that's going to allow us to return the BIOS essentially to its factory settings. Let's make sure that I have that right. And yes, this would allow us to boot the system without knowing the password. To use the jumper to reset the BIOS, you would need to locate the specific jumper on the motherboard and follow the instructions in the motherboard manual to short the pins. John is a new IT support specialist at a large company. A coworker has asked him to install a printer on their work computer. What is the next step John should take after installing the printer to make sure it is functioning properly? And this one's really easy. We just want to test the functionality, and we're going to, print and test page. That would be our correct answer. All right, let's move along. This one, again, kind of falls under CompTIA's policy for how we want to conduct our installs or troubleshooting. And so if we're initially setting something up, we always want to test it. Bob has just purchased a new cable modem and a SOHO, or small office home office, router for his home office. He needs to connect the cable modem to the SOHO router to set up his network. Which cable type should Bob use to connect the cable modem to the SOHO router? And this one should be fairly simple. We're not going to use coaxial as that is for satellite signal. We're not going to use USB or Thunderbolt. We want to use an Ethernet cable, and this would typically be an RJ45 connector. Okay, next up, if you're setting up a wireless network for a small business office, you need to choose the appropriate channel for the wireless network. Which channel should you select for the 802.11 wireless network in a small business office? This one, again, is going to come down to memory, and if I remember correctly, yes, channel 6 is one of the 3 non-overlapping channels recommended for use in the 2.4 gigahertz frequency band for 802.11 wireless networks. 10 and 24 are also valid channels, but they may cause interference with other nearby networks, and channel 13 may not be available in some countries or regions. Which of the following supports MIMO technology? I'm having trouble remembering this one. My gut says to go with A, but let's see. Okay, yes, that was correct. So the 802.11n standard is a wireless networking standard that supports MIMO technology, which allows for multiple streams of data to be transmitted simultaneously. You're upgrading the graphics card in a gaming desktop computer. You need to determine the appropriate type of expansion slot to use for a high-performance graphics card. Basically, this is asking us what slot we should use to add a new graphics card, and that would be the PCIe slot. You've decided to upgrade the storage capacity of your desktop computer by installing a new hard drive. As you gather the necessary components and tools, you begin to wonder about the major components of a hard disk drive system. Which of the following is not one of the 3 major components of a hard disk drive system? So we have the hard disk itself, we have the drive interface, we have the disk controller, and so the host adapter, that is not going to be correct. Host adapter is not one of 3 major components. The 3 major components of a hard drive system are the disk itself, we have the drive interface, this is the connection between the hard disk and the rest of the computer system, and the controller, and this is the component that manages the reading and the writing. You are a technician working for a small IT service company, and the client has reported that their Windows CAD workstation is running slowly. The client reports that the same application runs faster on an identical workstation. You review the client's hardware configuration and find that the workstation uses RAID 10 and has dual GPU cards. Which of the following should you perform first to troubleshoot the problem? Okay, so we don't want to clear the RAID configuration because we have backups for redundancy's sake for data. Replacing the RAID controller and the write cache module, that seems a little premature to me. I believe we need to first check the event log for any cache issues. And yes, that is correct. We could identify any potential software or system issues that may be contributing to the slow performance of the CAD workstation. And once we've done that, we could take further steps to address the problem, such as updating the drivers, running scans, or performing hardware replacements as necessary. As an IT technician, you've been tasked with running new network cables through the drop ceilings of an office building. You need to select the appropriate type of cable that will be used in these spaces. Which of the following types of cables is the most appropriate choice for running through drop ceilings? There is a cable type that is actually directly meant for ceiling spaces and is designed to be safe to use. And that's going to be the type called plenum. So again, plenum cables are specifically designed to be used in air handling spaces such as drop ceilings where we might have a high risk of fire. And so these are made from flame resistant materials that are able to prevent the spread of fire and smoke. It's a code requirement to use plenum rated cables when running cables through plenum spaces. PVC cables are not appropriate as they are not fire resistant, and Cat5e and the other cable types here have the same issue. All right, true or false, the eSATA connector features a distinct L shape that prevents improper insertion of the connector plug into an eSATA port. This would be true. Moving your CPU's speed beyond its normal operating range is called, and you've probably heard this one before, we just want to remember the term, it's called overclocking. You're considering a cloud-based service for file storage and synchronization. Which of the following resources is most critical to your design? So if we're thinking about file storage and synchronization, there's going to be lots of input and output. And so we want to consider our input-output bandwidth as our highest priority. All right, let's move on to the next question. Which of the following statements describes why the display on the laptop gets dimmer when the power supply from the AC outlet is disconnected? So for me, on my MacBook Pro, if I disconnect it, the screen will dim by like 2 or 3 notches on the brightness meter. And this is simply just a feature to help preserve battery and keep the laptop more efficient. And so this would be power management settings. These settings can be configured within power options in Windows, and I'm unsure if you can configure that in Mac, but again, this is a power management setting. Which of the following storage technologies is used in hard disk drives? This one is easy to remember. If we think hard disk, we are using a magnetic storage technology. We can also remember this by HDDs have moving parts and SSDs have no moving parts. Which of the following printer technologies should be used to print payroll checks on paper forms that have a carbon backing? I'm not remembering this one off the top of my head. My inclination is to go with thermal. Nope, that is incorrect. So the correct answer is A, impact. The impact printer technology is what you want. This strikes the ribbon and consequently the paper with a printhead. The physical hammering action causes the carbon backing to apply text to the layer of paper. Multi-part forms such as these are commonly used for receipts. How many pins would you see in a high quality printhead on a dot matrix printer? Now, if you see this answer, we generally want to see more, and I believe the answer is 24. That is correct. They can come in 9, 18, or 24, with 24 being the highest quality. Setting an administrator password in the BIOS accomplishes which of the following? And for this one, I kind of used process of elimination. It's not going to prevent a user from reading email. That kind of has nothing to do with it. We will not be able to prevent a virus from infecting the MBR from this, or prevent an attacker from opening the case, which is a physical phenomenon. And so the correct answer should be A. All right, so again, the idea behind this is to stop a person from attempting to boot off an optical disk or USB flash drive. Which of the following connectors can have audio, video pass through it? So we're looking for something that has both audio and video, and one of those is HDMI. You just upgraded the CPU. Which of the following issues can make your computer shut down automatically after a few minutes? All right, and this one is going to be the CPU has overheated. We had a similar issue earlier with that projector that was overheating and turning off, and so that could be a very common symptom is, if it's overheating, likely the device will be shutting itself off. All right, next question. Which of the following devices limits network broadcasts, segments IP address ranges, and interconnects different physical media? This is actually the job of a router. And so this is why we have a router and a modem. The router is responsible for these roles. So a router can limit network broadcast through segmenting and programmed routing of data. This part of a router's job when connecting 2 or more networks is also used with different media. For example, you might have a LAN that uses twisted pair cable, but the router connects to the internet via fiber optic connection. That one router will have ports for both types of connections. You want to upgrade memory in your computer. Which of the following is a user replaceable memory in a PC? Here we can again think back to a desktop computer, and we can easily replace DRAM in a PC. So dynamic random access memory, again, think DDR, DDR2, 3, 4, and 5, are examples, and we can easily install or access this in a PC. Which of the following statements is correct concerning IPv6 addresses? Now, we had one earlier that we could kind of pull information from, but the correct answer here is that they represent addresses using 128 bits. And that's only true regarding IPv6. Which of the following traits and port numbers associated with POP3? And here we have to select the two best answers. Okay, so for me, I remember one of them is 110, one of them is 995. I can't really ever remember which one's inbound or outbound, but it only gives us the inbound option for 995, so I'll assume the outbound is port 110. Oh, and I wasn't sure on the answer to this one. I actually got that wrong. And it receives inbound emails on both ports 110 and 995. Which type of cable should be used to connect a laptop directly to a PC? Here we can kind of draw from the names. We want the Cat5e crossover cable. This cable is designed to connect like devices. It is wired as T56AB on one end and T56A on the other, and those standards are ratified by the Telecommunications Industry Association, Electronic Industries Alliance, otherwise known as TIA EIA. To perform a network installation of Windows, which of the following must be supported by the computer's network interface card? All right, and the correct answer here is A, PXE. Network installations require that the network card be configured for pre-boot execution environment. That's what PXE stands for. And this allows the network card to boot off the network. Locate a network installation server and request that the installation begin. This configuration might be done in the UEFI BIOS of the computer within a special program in Windows, or in one that boots from the disk or removable media. Which of the following can send data the farthest? So we have coaxial, STP, multi or single mode fiber. The correct answer here is single mode fiber. And as we can see, it can send data up to hundreds of kilometers. If your bandwidth is 1000 megabits per second, how many bits are you sending/receiving? So 1000 megabits is also known as 1 gigabit, and that is also known as 100 million bits per minute. It's either that or a billion. I can't remember. Let's see. Okay, no, sorry. It was a billion bits per second or 1 gigabit per second. Your organization relies heavily on its server farm for resources and is less reliant on the client computers. Which type of client computer is most likely used by the organization? Now the answer here is kind of just what it sounds like. Again, we're relying heavily on a server farm and less reliant on the client computers. And so the correct answer is thin client. So in this scenario, the organization probably has thin client computers for its users. These computers have operating systems that are embedded in flash memory, and the rest of the information they require comes directly from the server. Thin clients normally have no hard drive, and this is why they're referred to as diskless workstations. Get down to our second to last question here. Which of the following statements describes the respective functions of two corona wires in a laser printer? So we're selecting the two best answers here, and the two corona wires in a laser printer conditions the drum to be written to, and then it's also going to be transferring the toner from the drum to the paper. All right, and then again, the explanation here, this just comes from knowing the main steps of laser printing image process. All right, guys, the last question for this practice test. A customer reports that when his computer is turned on, the screen is blank except for some text and a flashing cursor. He also tells you that there are numbers counting upward when the computer beeps and then freezes. Which of the following is most likely the cause of the problem? The biggest key indicator here for me is the numbers counting upwards. That's telling us that the computer is trying to determine how much memory is available. And so I believe the computer has faulty memory. Chances are that the computer has faulty memory or a memory module that needs to be reseated properly. The flashing cursor on the screen tells you that the system is not posting properly. The numbers counting up are the system checking the RAM. If the system beeps and freezes during the count up, the RAM has an issue. It could also be incompatible with the motherboard. All right, let's see how we did. All right, so we got 95% correct here, and I'm not unhappy with that for my Core 1 attempt. We hope to see you guys soon in the Core 2 version of this video. All right, guys, so that's going to do it. If you have any questions about any parts of this video, drop those in the comments below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Again, if you're interested in purchasing genuine Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. You can find those links down below. As our channel grows, we're constantly looking for new video topic ideas to make. If you have an idea that you'd like to see made into a video, we strongly encourage you to let us know what that is down below. Most of these requests get made into actual videos. Lastly, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated as it helps to support the channel. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.